or coming towards the end of 6 successive days of live football on 5 Live. It's the first of the League Cup semi-finals, the Carabao Cup live on BBC Radio 5 Live. Tomorrow night, Chelsea against Arsenal is the other semi-final, and Manchester City are attacking the Gallowgate end, so they're playing from left to right as we look here low down on the halfway line as Husinov heads the ball back to Trafford, being booed by some of the Newcastle supporters. He was so close to joining them, of course, in the summer, and indeed there is still speculation that he might, after all, make that move to the northeast because he's unhappy about the lack of first-team action since he made that move to the Etihad. Of course, subsequently they've signed Donnarumma, who's on the bench, as Foden turns on the edge of the area, and Miley will clear. Pat, you spoke in the build-up about the challenge that young Lewis Miley faces as Doku is sent away to try and test him again on that far side. Semenyo's the one on the right.
I mean, every challenge that I've watched this young lad being set, he's answered it, and he's muscled his way into that midfield. But they've got a problem at right full-back. They stuck him there, and he's not losing his place. Trippier's on the bench, so Eddie Howe believes in him, absolutely believes in him.
Haaland went to ground far too easily. Referee is Chris Kavanagh. He said there was no foul. Newcastle get the ball out wide to this near side, the left. Gordon on the halfway line, infield to Joe Linton. O'Reilly is that player who's just sitting there in the midfield. Rodri is on the bench. There's no Gonzalez. When we got wind of the team, we did at one stage wonder, or some City observers did, whether they were going to go with 3 at the back. I know Eddie Howard talked about a tactical change to try and surprise him. That's what he was expecting. In the end, it's the same formation, just the different personnel.
I would have been surprised at any change because it's a system that he's enjoyed. He's got players that actually fit that system there in the team today, so I'm not surprised there. But there are so many intriguing tactical battles, and just watching O'Reilly playing in that position, it's a tough position. You want to control games from there. That's not easy against a very, very strong Newcastle midfield.
Hall, the left back, tries to drill the ball out towards that far side, cut out by Ake from left back to left back, and the Dutch international back towards Trafford. Those boos are growing ever louder for Manchester City's keeper away towards our left.
Something very noticeable early on. Newcastle are going 3v3 at the back. They're actually asking Miley to go and walk into the midfield a lot of the time. That's a brave thing to do against Manchester City's attack.
Well, it certainly is when you've got Semenyo on this near side, Doku on the other, Haaland through the middle, Foden just in behind. Here is Max Allain, as well as Semenyo playing for another club in this competition earlier in the season. Allain did the same for Watford in the first round against Norwich. Semenyo was a half-time substitute for Bournemouth against Brentford in round 2, but the rules have changed this season in the League Cup, as they have indeed for the FA Cup, by the way, as Bruno Guimaraes in the midfield to Botman. Sven Botman at the back, signed that new deal yesterday, time to the club until 2030. Pre-semi-final boost for Sven Botman, who comes in for Cher, who's going to be out for a considerable period of time, as is Tino Livramento. Talk of Livramento maybe missing for 8 weeks.
Well, it's a real shame because he's been a brilliant player for Newcastle. The experience beyond his years, and also can attack from that full-back area a lot of the time, and comfortable right back or full-back. So a big miss for Newcastle and indeed England.
Yeah, I imagine he'll miss those 2 warm-up games in March against Uruguay and Japan as Pope, an England international all in purple, drops the ball to the feet of Botman. Guimaraes out towards Hall. Hall will run away from Nunez, the right back, who went deep into Newcastle territory to try and put him under pressure. Guimaraes finds Joe Linton, turns away from Nunez, squeezes the ball into the path of Gordon. Gordon now with a diagonal ball, out wide right. Murphy, early ball in. Here is Wissa, flag stays down, and Wissa puts the ball over the top. VAR is back in operation at this stage of the competition. The flag never materialised. What a chance that was for Wissa.
Yeah, as soon as you get any space at all, they got it wide. And it was mentioned early on before the start of the game, the question mark about Ake, lovely player, but not a natural fullback. and they got the ball out wide there, played it in. We've just seen a replay there, not offside, so it would have counted.
Well, Johan Wissa, 5 goals in his last 6 League Cup start. He scored his first Newcastle goal against Fulham in this competition, and you were expecting him at least to hit the target, Pat.
Well, we mentioned before the game, I'm not promising you goals, but I'll promise you chances. Well, we've had one, and it was a very, very clear one from about 7 yards out. And you're right, he should have got that on target, and I think Trafford in between the posts will be quite relieved about that.
It remains 0-0. That's Pat Nevin with us here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Also available through the BBC Sounds app. Botman along the ground. Joe Linton quickly challenged by Nunez. Ball breaks forward in favour of Manchester City. Foden out towards Semenyo. Semenyo right hand side of the area. Looks to cut inside. Passes the ball to Foden, side onto goal. Passes the ball back out towards Nunez. Foden takes the short ball in field. Husinov, they've committed sky blue shirts forward into that Newcastle half. Good vocal support though inside St James's Park as Doku dances his way down that left touchline, back inside towards Ake. Elaine, square ball. Husinov finds Semenyo once again. Newcastle dropping in and around their own penalty area. Husinov back towards Elaine, playing in front of Newcastle at this stage, looking to try and keep their shape in the black and white striped shirts. Ake, midway through the Newcastle half, again to the feet of Doku, comes forward. Murphy's the one who goes to approach him. Marley's also there. In comes the cross, cut out by Chow, who's on the stretch only as far as Doku. Newcastle were a little slow there, and Manchester City, Pat, have the ball once more. Yeah,
Doku looks sharp, doesn't he? Got the ball there, just one little step over, created plenty of space for the cross, just didn't find a light blue shirt.
Semenyo gets away from the challenge of Gordon, who had a little nibble at him. 25 yards out from goal, central position. O'Reilly towards Elaine. This is a good spell of pressure for Manchester City. Husinov once again flights the ball out towards that far side for Doku. Miley back pedals, Doku edges towards him, goes on the outside with ease. Doku towards the byline, and there once again was Chow to clear the ball away. Newcastle under pressure.
Well, your commentary, he goes by him with ease, is the perfect description of that. And Doku, he's had ball twice. Once he's had to go at Murphy, once he's had to go at Miley, went past him, got to the byline, and Newcastle cannot allow that to keep on happening, because eventually one of those crosses is going to fall to Erling Haaland.
Here is Doku again, and away from Miley once again. Miley recovers though, back goal side. Bernardo Silva makes the run, across the face of goal it goes. It squeezed its way past the near post, and somehow Haaland, whether it took a touch, he just couldn't get the
it's incredible
finish.
Absolutely incredible. I thought that was just a tap-in for Haaland. It's put across it real. It had the touch off the goalkeeper, didn't it? And that's what put Haaland off. But once again, that's 3 times in a row within 2 minutes that they've got the ball on the left-hand side, Manchester City, and got to that byline with consummate ease.
The warning signs are there for Newcastle down that Manchester City left.
It was a question I was asking before the game, more than any other question. And it's not an abuse of Miley, because he's playing out of position, but he's playing against somebody who's a specialist winger, who plays there, who's got dynamic pace, and has got a couple of tricks as well. Could be a tough evening.
You're right though, it was that ball from across the face of goal that was diverted and just took it out of the path of Haaland from Pope as he stood at his near post. It came off his left foot and just took it away out of Erling Haaland, who once again is having another prolific season. 26 goals that he's scored for Manchester City so far. Husinov on the halfway line, approached by Joe Linton, back towards Elaine. Husinov, the Uzbekistan international, comes forward into Newcastle territory and finds O'Reilly, and O'Reilly will chip the ball out towards Doku. So much going down that far side in front of the east stand here at St James's Park. Then Doku slips, tries to impede Murphy. Murphy squeezes the ball in field towards Ramsey. Chow will make a rather hurried clearance for Newcastle. It bobbled for Husinov, he got away with it. Gets the ball back from Nunez. Manchester City seeing a lot of the ball, Pat Nevin.
Utter domination, complete control of the football. And they've tried to quieten this crowd, and as I say that, the crowd have realised that's what Manchester City are trying to do, and they've tried to lift their team a little bit, but at the moment They've done a really good job, Manchester City, of looking like the home team.
For Newcastle United, it's their third semi-final in 4 seasons. But in the previous 2, the first legs were both played away from home at Southampton and Arsenal. However, they have progressed in all 3 of their League Cup semi-finals. Indeed, it is the best 100% record in the competition, but they have a very, very tough challenge, especially, and if you're a Newcastle fan, you'll be aware of this as well, it would make you wince, a horrendous record ahead of the return leg in 3 weeks' time at the Etihad. They've suffered 11 successive defeats.
So just a moment ago when you turned away, you missed it. The ball went to Kuznetsov, and he made one of those mistakes that you make when you're under 10s. Let it go under his foot, and it led to a Newcastle throw-in, and it's the second worst mistake I've seen in the last 2 nights. There was a worse one last night at the Liverpool game.
Yes, Dominic Szoboszlai against Barnsley in that FA Cup tie, but this is a change of competition. It's the League Cup, as Núñez passes the ball towards Elaine, who comes forward into the centre circle. Bernardo Silva runs on ahead of him, passes the ball out towards Ake. Doku then will pass the ball back to Ake once again, and then Elaine standing still forward of the centre circle. Both Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall look agitated in their technical area. Here is Semenyo, this is O'Reilly. Foden gets a touch. Husinov passing the ball around at will, the way that Manchester City do. Still 0-0. Semenyo got away from Gordon, didn't deliver the cross back towards Husinov. O'Reilly goes square. Ake's 30 yards out, puts the ball in the box, and then I think it was going to go out for a corner kick off the knees of Gordon.
Yeah, it did. What's happened is technically the 2 wingers, Doku and Semenyo, because they're pushing up and looking so dangerous, the 2 wide players from Newcastle are having to go back and cover in front, and that is leaving nothing up front for Newcastle to be able to hit other than Visser, and he's not been able to hold the ball. And purely because of those 2 wingers being so strong at the start of this game, it's pushed Newcastle all the way back to their own 18-yard line for the entirety.
City corner on the right-hand side, Foden to take it, doesn't beat the first man, headed away by Miley. Eddie Howe was desperate for Miley then to cut out the return ball to Foden. They did find Foden, who's got away from Guimaraes, but Visser with a block. Ake passes the ball forward. Doku running away, flag stays down on that far side, the left. He's got to try and get past Botman now. He curls over the cross, comes off the head of Chow, and then that should be a free kick for Newcastle. Well, Eddie Howe in his pre-match press conference said about the supporters, you're going to have to play your part, and certainly the Newcastle supporters have done exactly that in these opening 13 minutes.
Well, they're trying their hardest, but they've not got a lot to make a noise about. You hear them in the background sing their hearts out for the lads, but they know their team need a hand just now because they can't get the ball, they're not holding it up. Both of us have got a crick in our neck because we've just looked to our right constantly all the way through this game. And somewhere they have to get, Bruno Guimaraes in the midfield, or not Tonali, Joe Linton, to get on the ball, hold the ball, get sort of foothold, because it's not harmed yet.
Ball will go out for a goal kick for Newcastle United. Of course, they've already played this season. Back in November, Newcastle won here by 2-1. Harvey Barnes with both goals. Ruben Dias with one sandwiched in between. Harvey Barnes, who's on the bench for Newcastle United tonight, but you have to go all the way back to 1983-84 for the last time that Newcastle beat Manchester City twice in a season. It was in the days of Arthur Cox when they had a front line of Kevin Keegan, Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle, and indeed in the 5-0 win here at home at St James's, all 3 of them that day were on the score sheet at St James's, with Peter Beardsley scoring a hat-trick. They were special days for Newcastle United supporters. Here is Gordon on this near side, the left. Gordon tries to get away from Núñez, delivers the cross into the box. Joe Linton guides the header, but it was wide. It was always going wide, but it still will go down as a chance. But no real threat to Trafford's goal, 0-0.
A good wee lift for Newcastle there. They needed to get the ball. And the good thing about Anthony Gordon there, he didn't panic, he didn't try and go past the player. He held up a little bit to allow his teammates to get up, and Lewis Hall tried a little overlap as well, and that gave him half a yard to put the cross in. Clever play by Anthony Gordon, but couldn't get the head on target.
Trafford with the goal kick, the ball spinning through the air. Gordon is the first player to meet it in the black and white shirt, but he sells Botman a little short. Haaland was almost in there, but Botman recovered well. Miley now plays the ball forward on the right. Murphy again looks for an early cross. Newcastle get a corner. Those early balls are key from Murphy.
Yeah, much better there from Newcastle. They've gone down the left, now they're going down the right. We're talking about the wide players for Manchester City, but don't forget there's a lot of pace and a lot of ability. The Newcastle wingers have not got on the ball much yet, but good ball from Miley up the line there. And Murphy gets the corner kick, and we know how important corner kicks have been this season. And Newcastle have got a bit of height in there.
And they've all gathered at the far post. Joel Linton, Chow, Botman, Guimaraes. Miley has now walked away. Manchester City have everybody back. In front of the Leesy's end, Newcastle play from right to left. Corner far side the right. It's an in-swinger. Trafford got something on it with both hands. Bruno Guimaraes is the first one to race out of that penalty area to keep it in Newcastle's possession. Miley manages to get it away from Doku, taken high on the chest by Guimaraes, runs and then falls forward, tries to keep his balance. I thought maybe he'd been impeded there by Doku. To his credit, he tried to keep his balance, and the referee, Chris Kavanagh, when he did eventually fall over, didn't give the free kick in Newcastle's favour.
Sometimes there are one or two free kicks in a game that set a tone, and the referee's trying to set a tone to say, don't go down easy, I'm not going to give you. I like that.
In fact, he did it earlier on with who was the Manchester City player early, in the very early stages. Haaland went to ground easily, and again.
Yeah, and I do like that, because it sets a tone, and the players moan about it, and then they get it quickly. This is not going to be a referee that's going to give a pull every time somebody falls over with a little wisp of air on their back.
Foden collects the ball inside his area, caught by Joel Linton. Newcastle were trying to press and close City down in and around their penalty area. Foden falls to the ground, and Chris Kavanagh gives a free kick. Foden complains, points to the spot where he was caught, and a free kick to Manchester City. We've been playing for 17 minutes. This is BBC Radio 5 Live. Don't forget, the Australian Open tennis starts on Sunday. Tennis breakfast from 7 o'clock in the morning on Sports Extra each and every day for the entirety of the tournament, as Pep Guardiola is currently in the ear of the fourth official, Matthew Donoghue.
The fourth official has his work cut out already, because he's had a word with Eddie Howe as well.
Newcastle go in search of the ball, pressing, and Manchester City get a throw deep inside their own half. It wasn't from there, Nathan Ake. You've stolen at least 6-8 yards. Got to go a little bit further back from where the ball went out, surely. And the assistant referee will drag him.
And there's another ball on the pitch which no one seems to want to kick off either. Do you know, interesting, Dwight was mentioned before the game about, with the playing and being able to press high up the pitch. We haven't seen a sniff of that for the first 17 minutes, but we're beginning to see it a little bit now, and Newcastle are trying to get out of that period where they were being totally dominated with possession that Man City have got, and that's sometimes what you have to deal with Man City. That's how they play. Try to strangle the game, hold the ball and not let you get any foothold. Newcastle maybe expected that, and they've answered back in the last few minutes.
And I would think that Eddie Howe, as that looks a foul on Doku, would be quite pleased with the way that, despite the possession that City had, that there was only that scare with a cross to the face of goal.
I would say 3-4 from the left-hand side. So I think relieved is possibly the word, because any of one of those could have ended up in a goal for had they sort of settled right on Haaland or anybody else's foot when they got on the left-hand side. But the referee slowed the play down, having a little word with a few Man City players there.
Yeah, it's Núñez, the one who he was primarily talking to. Bernardo Silva was also there. O'Reilly was in earshot. Matheus Núñez walks away. In the meantime, I was struck by the hand movements of Gordon, who was trying to get a message to Nick Pope via Botman. So whether that's all about getting the ball out wide to this near side, the left, as Gordon was alert to try and cut out a ball to Núñez. Pops up in the air. O'Reilly loses out to Joel Linton. Wissa stoops to Joel Linton. Then Husinov stood firm in the challenge, and Manchester City have it. But Newcastle are a lot more aggressive now, hunting for the ball pack.
Yeah, they were fearful of doing that before, because Man City were able to pass around them very quickly. You just can't allow that. You need to be in their faces as much as possible. And I think they've just realised once again that for Newcastle, 0-0's not good enough. They need better than that. They need to get much more in the game. They need to create one or two more chances than they've looked like providing so far.
Hall heads the ball away for Newcastle. Joel Linton gets a little nudge in the back from Nunez, but despite that manages to find Gordon, who as soon as he turned was met by his England teammate Nico O'Reilly playing in midfield, who's put the ball out into this main stand. 20 minutes played on BBC Radio 5 Live, and it remains Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0.
I do like how City have started. You know, sometimes with City, when they keep possession, it's a bit slow and a bit obvious and not always the most exciting. They just want to, as I say, strangle the game. To be honest, it hasn't been like that. When they've passed it and kept it, they've done it quickly. They've got it wide as often as they possibly could. It's quite impressive, really. They've been the better team so far, Manchester City, but they've been enjoyable to watch as well with the technique.
City have progressed from each of their last 6 semi-finals in the League Cup, and indeed they've won it on all 6 of those times. They've won it 6 in the last 12 seasons, but this is their first semi-final since 2021, as Murphy is sent away on the right. Murphy again with an early ball in to the penalty area, flicked away by Husanov, only as far as Hall, who then Husanov will clear once again for Manchester City. Up to Haaland, lays it off towards Doku, closed down by 2 black and white striped shirts. Miley is back goal side, but Doku still has the ball at his feet. Infield to Bernardo Silva, finds Foden with a short ball into the centre circle, and Manchester City have it with O'Reilly. And here is Bernardo Silva once again looking to try and dictate deep in midfield.
The most dangerous play right now that Newcastle have got is Miley right back and just putting it behind Ake and getting Murphy to run. He's got behind him twice so far, and that is clearly, I mentioned at the start of the game, that Ake, lovely player, but not absolutely noted for his pace. You can see that's what Eddie Howe thinks as well, because they keep on trying to play that ball.
It's the flank in front of the east stand on that far side, the Newcastle right and the Manchester City left, as the away side attack the Gallagate end. Botman out to this near side, the left for Newcastle for Hall, who comes away from 2 players, and it was tripped by Semenyo. I'm not sure that was an attempt to play the ball by Semenyo. He's fortunate to get away with a yellow card.
Yeah, there are some referees that would be reaching for the card. And we had a wee chat before the game, and I was explaining to you what FA Cup rules are. Well, obviously we'll get just general cup rules, a wee bit more lenient, understanding the game's got to flow a little bit, and it's a kind of cup tie atmosphere, and the referee not reaching for the cards too early on. Again, I back that, unless it's a really kind of deliberate, vicious tackle. It was no more than a little tap, so I'm happy with the referee there.
10 yards inside the Manchester City half. Hall to take it, and he looks for the run of Wissa, but Nunez was alert to the danger, tried that weighted ball into the inside left channel of the area. Every decision, I think, from a Newcastle United supporters' point of view at the minute seems to be going against them. They're not happy, the locals here in the main stand.
No, but just looking at Anthony Gordon, you mentioned early on that he was making some sort of hand movements towards the goalkeeper, and there's a reason for it. Have a look at the keeper. It's gone down now, and you just wonder. I think watch Anthony Gordon now. He's ran over to the manager. Right, I'm going to have a wee guess here. I guess the keeper's all right. I think they had to make a wee technical change. Gordon has been making these motions. I think he also wants to change his boots by the looks of the thing as well. And I think he's been shouting over saying, look, something wrong, can we stop the play? Keeper's gone down with an injury. Now, you may call me cynical.
I've called you cynical many times.
Yes, only because I am.
Well, I'll tell you what, well, Manchester City can't complain about this, is
correct.
That Manchester City against Leeds United at the Etihad earlier this season, they had a tactical timeout when Donnarumma went down.
Yeah. And again, look, he might have a problem. You know, Pope actually might have a problem. He's had injuries before, we understand that. But the amount of times that Anthony Gordon was shouting and asking and putting a question across there, and Anthony Gordon is now changing his boots.
I would back your cynical mind.
Yes, and that one, possibly.
Mind you, judging by the way that Pep Guardiola has gathered his players around and is extremely animated, and he's throwing his right hand here, there and everywhere, he's used that to his advantage to try and get as many instructions across to his players.
Yes. If he could get a word in there, because I've just counted up how many Manchester City coaches were there. 12. There were 12, including Pep, went over for that little tete-a-tete.
Well, whatever the problem was with Pope, he seems to be okay.
Does he? Wow.
25 minutes played. It is 0-0.
To be honest, I'm not blaming Pope. If anything, he was told to get down. He has to obey orders. I mean, it may be wrong. Look, come on. But there is a possibility that he is injured. Just doesn't look that way.
No. Here is Ramsey in the midfield for Newcastle. Still goalless. This is Murphy. Murphy holds off Doku. And then ball passed out to the right-hand side for Ramsey. Back to the right-back Miley. Across the back four. Chow sweeps it across first time to Botman. Now it's with the left-back Hall. But Semenyo was quick to try and close him down. It'll be a Newcastle throw, which is not quite level with their own penalty area. But 26 minutes played, they seem to have spent a long time in this first half in their own half.
They have done, but when they've broke, particularly down the right-hand side, they have looked very dangerous. And they've got a couple of crosses in there, particularly. I was asking the question beforehand, you know, Barnes or Murphy. Barnes has been on phenomenal form. Of course, they scored against City earlier in the season as well. But I can see the thinking now from Eddie Howe. That pace is incredible.
Ramsey looking to come forward from the midfield, gets the ball out wide again towards Murphy. Murphy again looks for the early delivery. Here is Wissa inside the penalty area. Shot takes a deflection. Late flag. He was offside. It'll be a free kick to Manchester City.
But you can see where the weakness is, can't you? It's really obvious now. They're not even looking now. They're just putting it behind Nathan Ake, just hammering it in there, and it's, you know, all he needs to do is, you know, pin his heels back and run, and Murphy's going to get there into dangerous positions. Interesting when the ball came into Wissa there. Wissa of old would have hit that first time, wouldn't he have? It was a tough one, it was bouncing, it was on his left foot. But when you're a striker in confident form, even though it was a tough angle, you have a dig at that. He didn't. He tried to hold on to it and the chance was missed.
Well, certainly he's probably had the best chance of the game so far. It remains 0-0, but he put that one wide after 5 minutes. Here is O'Reilly. Back to Elaine. Elaine is able to turn away from Wissa. Bernardo Silva's filling in at left back at the minute. Ake's the one ahead of him on the left touchline. Bernardo Silva, though, is able to drop back in his own penalty area. Nobody went to close him down. That's what the Newcastle supporters were groaning about. Now they pass the ball forward towards Semenyo. Well-timed challenge by Botman. Sliding and had to get it right. Did get it right. Last touch off Semenyo. It'll be Newcastle throw 0-0.
That was a Dan Burn tackle, wasn't it? What he always likes to do. Sliding, long leg, gets in there. One of those ones that, if you get it wrong, you're minimal in the book. But he got it absolutely right. Great tackle.
Hall waits to take the throw. Joe Linton digs it out towards Guimaraes. Now with Chow. He passes the ball forward, but it goes astray and straight to Ake. Here now is Bernardo Silva. Short diagonal ball towards O'Reilly. We've been playing for nearly half an hour. And then Elaine back to Trafford, all in green with a bright strip of orange down the side of his goalkeeper jersey away towards our left. Elaine carries the ball out of defence. Doku's ball in field to Ake. The return ball cut out by Miley. Murphy had actually tracked the run of Doku on that occasion. Here is Guimaraes. Ramsey, ball in field was poor. Straight towards Bernardo Silva. Runs forward for Manchester City. Haaland ahead of him. Bernardo Silva tried to thread it through. Joe Linton, though, and that looks like might be a foul. Push on Ramsey. Joe Linton had blocked the route to goal. And then O'Reilly catching Guimaraes. And then the game will be a free kick, but no action to be taken against the Manchester City player.
It's one of those ones. I don't think it was a very good ball he was given there. There was 3 Man City players around him, but he turned. He managed to get. Well, I was going to get past the first player. Didn't get past him. He ran straight into him. To be fair, I really has to be very careful there. I think the elbow was up a little bit. It certainly caught Guimaraes in the face, and he's suggesting that to the referee. That was an elbow to the face. It was. But was it deliberate? And that's what the referee doesn't believe it was.
And Stuart Atwell, the VAR, would have had a look at that for violent conduct, but play is back already underway. Still it remains 0-0, 5 live, 15 minutes to go to half-time. Chow across the back to the goalkeeper Pope, all in purple. Botman, Hall, near side. Hall's early ball over the top of both Joe Linton and Husinov and straight through to the Manchester City goalkeeper. Newcastle United are actually unbeaten in their last 13 home League Cup ties in playing time, because that does, as I'm sure Burnley supporters might be quick to point out, includes a draw in 2021 where Burnley triumphed on penalties.
Well, just off the ball here, Joe Linton has come face to face with O'Reilly, still fuming about O'Reilly's elbow onto Bruno Guimaraes. They stood up to each other, and I don't think the referee's got an option now. I think yellow card has to come out of both those players now. I don't think he's got an option there. I don't think the referee saw it all as it kind of started up there, but both of them standing in the middle of the field pushing at each other. No pushes towards the head, and as suspected, both get the yellow.
Yep, both books on 31 minutes, Joe Linton and O'Reilly. There was a degree of retribution there as far as Joe Linton was concerned, and O'Reilly just gets a consoling pat on the front of his sky blue shirt from Bernardo Silva as play will resume. So it remains 0-0, 14 minutes to go to the break, and Trafford is wanting to take the free kick, but in fact no, he's leaving it for Bernardo Silva. That's what he was waiting for. Certainly fired up the crowd.
It certainly has, and from that, I think it was about the 17th minute onward when I think total dominance from Manchester City. A couple of little breaks from Newcastle, then that break in play, and since then it's been pretty even match, not much in it.
Here is Husinov, back to Elaine, central position, coming forward now with the ball, out to Doku once again. Doku, who was a real threat in the early stages, been nullified for the time being. Certainly they haven't seen as much of the ball out on that far side as it was for that period where he had both Miley and Murphy causing real concern. Elaine out to Semenyo. Hall is quick to close him down. Back to Husinov once again. Gordon does the running. Wisson now will put pressure on Elaine. Finds O'Reilly. Guimaraes goes towards him. O'Reilly lays it off towards Ake, but it's in that middle area of the field, and Manchester City keeping it quite well. That was a sharp turn by Nunes. Inverted right back, now out towards Semenyo. Semenyo, Nunes has continued his run. Semenyo into the penalty area, overruns it. Now, with Nunes out of position, O'Reilly tries to curb the run forward of Hall. Hall, though, manages to get away. O'Reilly then with a foul. I'll be honest, I'm not too sure there was too much in that. However, O'Reilly's already booked, or was it Bernardo Silva? They've got to be careful.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I don't think there was a lot in that at all. I think Lewis Hall was kind of falling when he actually went by the player. May have been a little bit of contact, but not a huge amount. Definitely not enough for, I don't think that was a second yellow card.
No.
And we all know that a second yellow card almost has to be a wee bit harsher than the first.
I think if anything, it was Bernardo Silva that probably initiated the contact rather than O'Reilly. Although it didn't stop the Newcastle supporters voicing their frustration.
Jay, watch Anthony Gordon just now. His work rate is absolutely phenomenal, because he's working so hard and he's having to go back and help Lewis Hall, cover in front of him all the time to help him against Semenyo. The miles and the pace that he puts in here in a defensive sense, it's lovely to watch, but also it kills him for the end of the game because he runs out of steam.
Anthony Gordon with that fresh pair of boots, as on the far side, the right, Newcastle lose the ball with Ramsey, tries to win it back, they get a throw, he wants to take it quickly, Miley goes back all the way towards Chow. Interesting,
I don't know how many times you've actually mentioned Erling Haaland's name, but it is one of those games. How many times has he actually touched the ball? It's got to be still in single figures, maybe even low single figures.
I'm actually worried for you, Pat, because I was thinking the same.
These are concerning times if we think the same.
Hall waits to take the throw on the left. He takes a breather and then goes long with the throw. Joe Linton and O'Reilly challenge together. Husinov will turn midway through his own half and back towards Trafford. Hits it first time, and the ball will drop towards Haaland, bounced away off his thigh. Hall, though, was quick to challenge Semenyo. Rolls away from the Ghanaian international, now taken off his toes by Guimaraes, opens up for Newcastle. Ramsey again, out wide to Murphy. That's the go-to ball, that's the go-to play as far as Newcastle are concerned. Murphy on the outside, stands over the cross, caught at his near post by Trafford.
He couldn't get ahead of steam up there, and that was good defending by Nathan Ake. Just stopped him a little bit, and because he stopped him, couldn't use his pace quite the same way with limited space, and couldn't get the cross in there. But what about the play by Lewis Miley in the left full-back position? He's playing against Semenyo. I think he's done more dribbles than Semenyo has.
Here is Ramsey for Newcastle. Out towards Murphy again on that far side, the right level of the area. Murphy overruns it, shows it too much towards Ake. It's a Newcastle throw though. Miley will get there to take it. He'll go back towards Chow. Manchester City have everybody back inside their own half, and we have under 10 minutes to go to half time. It remains 0-0. Hall on this near side. Gordon back to Botman. Manages to pass the ball in between Haaland and Foden, and once again the ball is lifted out towards Murphy. Murphy doesn't deliver it first time on this occasion. Turns along the ground, finds Miley. Guimaraes joins the attack. Guimaraes 30 yards out from goal, running away from Bernardo Silva. And now it is with Chow. Miley on the right. Manchester City are working hard at this stage to try and stop Newcastle. Here is Joe Linton. Husanov had gone towards him, out to Gordon. Haven't seen much of Gordon against Nunes. Oh, he was caught late there. That will be a yellow card for the Manchester City right back, and it's a free kick for Newcastle, just in from the left touchline.
That is 100% a yellow card. Not even any doubt about that. I mean, he will do the age-old argument, I got there as soon as I could. He basically simply had nowhere near the pace to get near Gordon there. And what a lovely feeling that is as a winger. When you know you've got the pace of the defender you're up against, and he's on a yellow card, so Anthony Gordon will want the ball every time he can now.
I told you I was on your wavelength. Bruno Guimaraes waits to take the free kick. So, a matter of yards in from the left touchline. Newcastle United attacking the Leazes end. On this near side, the left, there is a melee of players waiting. Guimaraes in towards the near post and came off an outstretched right leg of Nunes and has gone behind for a corner kick. Didn't get the clearance he wanted at all.
He did not. Looks a little bit shaken, Nunes there. Just that flying tackle in there. It is one of those ones, when you make that tackle, it looks brilliant. When you miss it by a millisecond, it looks horrible. And now he's making a second mistake, and a corner kick for Newcastle.
Corner kick on this near side, the left. The Newcastle players have gathered at the far post. Now they make a run in towards the 6-yard area. In it comes now. Trafford manages to pour it away. Gordon's rather heavy touch, and O'Reilly volleys the ball clear. Oh, and then Hall has sliced that up in the air. It was actually very hard for Doku to bring under control. At one stage he resembled a seal, because it bounced on the top of his head as he was trying to bring it under control, and then Newcastle helped out by that, get it back towards Pope.
It's a horrible ball to try and control. It's spinning, it's high, it's coming over your shoulder. And Lewis Hall got away with it, just a little bit lucky, but it was an incredibly hard ball to control. With Man City players bearing down on you.
Chow at the back for Newcastle. Botman just outside the D of his own penalty area, and now here is Hall. Gordon had set off on a run, but they were unable to find him from the back. Botman will pass the ball through into the centre circle. Wissa turns. The ball for Gordon went closer towards Trafford rather than Gordon, and Gordon knew, and you could just see as he looked up to the heavens, thinking that could have been an opportunity.
Well, it should have been an opportunity, but it should have been the other way. When over there Murphy was free and Miley was free, they had the entire quarter of the pitch to run into, and Whistle went the wrong direction.
Hall holds off Semenyo, who had a little nibble at him. The referee again tried to let the game flow. That's a good decision. Pep Guardiola throws his hand in disgust at the referee, but he was impeded, but he did try to let the game flow.
He's fantastic so far, Hall. You think about he's playing against Semenyo, one of the best players in the league this season. He's not really given him much, And when he's on the ball, he wants to go and dribble and make things happen. And to be honest, I'm very, very impressed by Lewis Hall. He's had his injuries, had his difficulties, but he looks absolutely back to his best, if not the best he's ever been.
He actually made his debut in this competition against Manchester City as his free kick goes straight into the path of Trafford. It was November 2022 in a League Cup tie for Chelsea. As here he's back on defensive duties, holding off the run of Doku in a central area, and again his awareness did well under pressure. And Newcastle now, with Miley the right back, will stride forward. Under 5 minutes to go to half-time on 5 Live. The first of the League Cup semi-finals. Tomorrow we're at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea against Arsenal. This is Guimaraes, and the holders, Newcastle United. As Botman with a clearance struck the back of Bernardo Silva, could have fallen to Haaland but it didn't, and Newcastle have given the ball away. Miley straight towards Foden, accelerates as he runs at the heart of the Newcastle defence. Hall comes into a central area to hold up Foden. O'Reilly joins the attack, still midway through the Newcastle half. Here is Foden, the layoff, Elaine, Husinov, out now to Bernardo Silva, who finds space on this near side, the right. Bernardo Silva, Gordon and Hall double up on him. Square ball to Foden, back towards Elaine, 6 yards forward of the centre circle. O'Reilly strokes the ball inside. Bernardo Silva, Manchester City once again stringing the passes together, so much so that Bernardo Silva is actually able to come to a standstill and point and talk as to where he wants the movement to be. As Husinov to Elaine. Doku meanwhile stays out wide left and slaps his hands against his thighs in frustration because the ball didn't come towards him. Instead they come back out to this near side for Semenyo, to Foden, who looks up and passes the ball to Ake. Ake crosses the ball forward, up in the air by Botman. Second header is better, finds Ramsey, who now looks to release Murphy. Wissa running through the middle, Murphy's over the halfway line. Doku will shrub Murphy off the ball fairly and gets the ball back for Manchester City. There must have been half a dozen sky blue shirts to Newcastle's 2.
Yeah, not enough help up there for Murphy, and he's done a lot of running. And you're thinking, look, I know it's half a pitch, but go and run the full back, go and ask him a question. He'll be tired as well, but in reality Murphy's doing as much work tracking back as Anthony Gordon's doing in the left hand side, so that sort of run from that sort of distance is quite a lot to ask with just a couple of minutes to go before half time.
That's Pat Nevin with us here on BBC Radio 5 Live as Elaine carries the ball out of defence, tries to ping a ball out towards Semenyo, blocked by Botman, picked up by Hall, runs forward as the left back, but he's overhit that. Murphy, little flat-footed, in fact that was why he was flat-footed, he knew he was in an offside position. And Ake back to Trafford, free kick to City. Yeah,
he was trying to hold his line a little bit there. He just looked a little bit tired, maybe holding his leg a little bit, Murphy. I wonder if he's carrying a little bit of injury, he's labouring to get back.
Here is Semenyo running forward, he's not labouring. Looks to go on the outside, stands over the cross towards the far post. Miley will hook it to safety for Newcastle.
He's not moving, is he, Murphy? I'm having a look at him over on the right hand side there, and I just wonder if he's fully fit now.
Yeah, whether he appears for the second half we will have to see. Certainly not running as fluently as he was in the early stages. Newcastle United stop a City attack on the edge of the area, but there's nobody there to put pressure on Husinov, who collects it inside his own half and runs forward. O'Reilly out to Ake. Murphy is back. Once again the Newcastle supporters are generating the atmosphere inside St James's Park, but it remains 0-0. We haven't had too many chances of late either after that flurry at either end in the opening 15 minutes. It's been sort of like a chanceless almost half hour since.
Yeah. And if I was Man City, I would be going out to that left hand side and I would be asking Murphy the question they're asking him right now.
And here is Doku to Ake, who joins the attack. Left corner of the area, back out towards Doku. He's got Bernardo Silva behind him. He shifts the ball on the outside, delivers the cross, and it strikes the body of Hall and behind for a corner kick to Manchester City.
Honestly, you've got to get Murphy off. I think his hamstring's gone.
Oh, he's just put his hand up.
Yeah.
He can't continue.
It was just a few minutes ago. He was running up the line and he was trying to hide it, but you can see just by gait sometimes it's not 100%, and that's not shocked me that he's gone down.
No, well, you called it, Pat. You called it.
It's just because they've been working so hard. You watch Gordon working as hard as he was, and then suddenly Murphy has been doing the same. And that sprint from the halfway line, I'm thinking, why have you not gone? You've got the pace of the defender. And you think, well, there's two reasons. Either A, you're tired, or B, you're injured. And it turns out it was absolutely B. And he will have to come off now, because for me that's his high up in his left hamstring.
Well, he was waving to acknowledge the bench to get their attention, and at that point the corner was about to be taken, and I think the message was then clearly go to ground, which he's done, and the physio's on tending to him. At the minute though, there doesn't appear to be a substitute who's ready.
Well, he'll be getting his kit on, because he wouldn't have been spotted expecting to go in. You would expect if anyone's going to come on, it's Harvey Barnes. You know that they hate making substitutions at corner kicks, so they might want him to stay on, but he can't stay on because he's injured and he's had treatment. He has to come off anyway.
But at the minute he's not. Oh yes, he is. Now Chris Kavanagh's actually telling him you're going to have to go off the field, so they're going to be temporarily down to 10.
Yeah, I thought,
here's Barnes.
Exactly what I thought. I really would have been shocked if you leave yourself 10 men. He's probably not going to make it back on anyway. Don't take that chance. Get your other player on, and not a bad replacement, Harvey Barnes.
So Harvey Barnes is on, and Murphy is the player who is going off. We'll be hoping that that's not a serious problem for Murphy, given the state of their current injury situation.
Well, definitely a hamstring strain, but because he's walking just now, it might not be a very long-term one, but certainly a few weeks.
Foden with the corner from this right side. Hall, far side of the 6-yard area, heads it away. Picked back up by Doku on the left. Doku looking to try and deliver the cross, does so towards the near post and turn behind for a corner kick. We're in stoppage time here on BBC Radio 5 Live, and it remains 0-0.
Yep, again, Lewis Hall, he's almost in the right back position there against Doku, and you're thinking, how are you going to manage this? Well, he managed it very well indeed, but he has given away a corner.
This might be the last bit of action in this first half. A goalless first half in this first leg of this first semi-final of the Carabao Cup, live on 5 Live. Doku waits on that far side, the left, to take it. In it goes, all the way through to Ake, and another Newcastle touch on the way through, and yet another corner.
It wasn't the best looking corner I've ever seen. Maybe it was worked because it was low and Haaland got to that front post and flicked it on. Once again, that time it was Ake, couldn't quite get the power on it.
So Doku once again with a corner kick far side the left. It's in comes now, strikes the body of Hall. Nunes heads it, Foden hits it first time up in the air. Joe Linton heads the ball away, still inside the penalty area, and hooked up in the air by Hall. And there indeed is the half-time whistle. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0 at the break. Murphy's early cross from the right, Wissa blazed it over. The best opportunity of the half. Joe Linton had a header that was well wide. Doku's caused all sorts of problems, particularly in the early stages. But it was when he linked up with Bernardo Silva across the face of goal, that was diverted away out of the path of Haaland by Pope's left foot at his near post. Your thoughts, Pat Nevin?
Do you know, you get 0-0s and you get 0-0s, and some of them are dull and boring, and they're just waiting for the second half, or indeed the second leg of a game. It's not really been like that. I think it's been a really interesting technical game. Work rate's been fantastic from all the players involved there, and you just get the feeling if they keep on going at this pace, space will open up. This game could explode in the final quarter, and maybe that's not a big shock to say something like that if you've watched Newcastle here recently. They are incredible at the end of games.
Well, they've certainly been having plenty of goals. It's their 4th successive home game in 2026. 15 goals before tonight, but not this evening. Kelly, Newcastle 0, Manchester City 0.
Ian Dennison, Pat Nevin at St James's Park for us. And Pat, we keep saying it was always going to be a game of chances, if not necessarily goals, but it's just that final bit that seems to be missing for both sides.
I think mostly, it's for two different reasons really. First of all, Manchester City, they've found it difficult after the first 10-15 minutes where they were getting down the left-hand side constantly. They've not been getting to the bylines anymore, and the reason being is the two wide players, two wingers, have gone and backed up their full-backs, so there's no space for Manchester City to go and create from Semenyo on the right-hand side. Obviously, on the left-hand side, Doku, who looked so good, early on in the half. Whereas for Newcastle, they had two options very similar. They're wide players, and Murphy looks very, very good, or did, until he got that injury there when the ball was put beyond Ake. But Manchester City spotted that as well, and they've killed that space a little bit, understood where the difficulty is. So yeah, it's technically and tactically a very, very intriguing match. Yeah, they are cancelling themselves out in various places, but that's what good players do, and good coaches do, and good tacticians do. But then you get tiredness, and then you get changes as the game goes on. So I've enjoyed this game. I think it's been played at a great pace. It's kept everyone in here excited and interested enough, but I still think it's going to get better in the second half.
Pat will be with you for that, with you and Deno for the second half of Newcastle against Manchester City. Dwight Gale is also... Dwight, as Pat mentioned, Newcastle are so good at growing into games. They finish them very, very strongly. So with that in mind, will they be pretty satisfied with that first half?
Yeah, I think it would have played into their hands after the first 15 minutes. Obviously, like mentioned there, they obviously got down the left quite a bit with Doku, creating a lot of havoc against Miley when he was able to get 1v1s, and I sort of think that was easily an easy pass to get to Doku for Man City, especially when Newcastle didn't press as well as they normally do. They normally go a lot more man-to-man, which they sort of changed when Joe Litton pushed up and helped Wissa a bit more. So they seemed to drop back into the six when needed. And then when the ball went backwards, they all sort of went man for man, which means that it's a bit more difficult to get Doc on the ball running at Miley. And I think they grew into the game, like you said. It's going to be a big miss, I think, Murphy playing, because with the counter-attacks that they've looked strong on, I think Murphy being a right footer is perfect for that role, because he likes to whip those balls in early. And I think Wissa should have done a bit better with both of his chances, to be honest. But he's going to be creating that high line to cause problems when Man City try and push up. So I think Murphy will be a bit of a big miss, and Harvey Barnes coming on now, he's going to have to do the same sort of job in terms of getting early crosses in, and then also get back in like Gordon and Murphy have done for the fullbacks.
Yeah, and they're managing to sort of cancel out any of those attacking players anyway on both sides. City are doing it to Newcastle. Newcastle are doing it to City as well. And like you said, it's been a surprise to see Newcastle do that. Maybe even more surprising to see Manchester City set up like that under Pep Guardiola. Yeah,
because Pep obviously knows what Eddie's going to be bringing to the table, and I think defence is very important in these sort of ties. You don't want the other team to get an early start or get ahead of it, to be honest, and because both teams will be very threatening on the counter attack. So you notice it from both teams as soon as they lose the ball in the attacking side. If they don't win it back in the first 2 or 3 passes, they're all sprinting back. And there was multiple occasions, especially for Newcastle, where they got back in numbers and they surround around the ball before Man City are having to retreat with the ball, to which the counter sort of gets ruined and they have to start again, which it's been a bit of a difficult time for Man City to get opportunities, really.
Dwight, you're going to stay with us for the rest of the evening. We'll be back at St James's Park later with Pat Nevin and Ian Dennis for the second half of that game. About 10 minutes until the second half gets underway. No goals as yet between Newcastle and Manchester City in that League Cup semi-final first leg. Before we get back there, though, we'll hear more from BBC Sport's Manchester United reporter Simon Stone on Michael Carrick being named their new head coach until the end of the season. And we'll be live in Morocco ahead of tomorrow's AFCON semi-finals. All of that on the other side of the latest BBC News with Juliana Cassidy.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
President Trump has encouraged Iranian anti-government demonstrators to keep protesting, saying help is on its way. Thousands of people are feared dead after a crackdown on weeks of protests in Iran. The BBC's been told that the government has U-turned on its plans for digital ID for workers. It's understood it will not be compulsory for the identification in order to prove a person's right to work. Spanish government officials have called for an investigation into the 1980s pop star Julio Iglesias after 2 women alleged they were sexually abused by him in 2021. A media report says the accusations include rape, sexual harassment and inappropriate touching. He's been approached for comments. And the Scottish Government has delivered its final budget before the Holyrood elections. It includes changes to income tax bans as well as taxes applied to private jets and properties worth more than £1 million.
The wait is over.
Welcome to a brand new series of Gladiators! 3, 2, 1.
If we hit you hard, it's a compliment.
I don't think my jaw is supposed to bend that way.
Brand new events that will test your pecs, your power and your pace.
When you come at this cat, you're going to get these claws.
You're a contender on my show. I'm the energy guy, and I'm thinking he's taking my place.
A brand new series of Gladiators. Starts Saturday on BBC iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sports with Kelly Cates.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
We'll be back at St James's Park very shortly for the second half of Newcastle United against Manchester City in their League Cup semi-final first leg. Elsewhere, Michael Carrick has this evening been appointed Manchester United head coach until the end of the season. Steve Holland, Jonathan Woodgate, Johnny Evans and Travis Binion are also going to be part of his staff. Well, Carrick's been speaking to Manchester United's in-house media team. Simon Stone is across it all. So, Simon, what's he been saying?
Well, it's last 23 minutes and there's 3,000 words that I've just whistled through there. So he says
You've got
quite
it on
a
one
lot.
and a half.
He says quite a lot without saying too much. He talks about how Jonathan Woodgate pushes him. He talks about the makeup of his backroom team, as you've highlighted there, and how there's different components of that. And he feels as though that will be a really good backroom team. He also talks about his desire to bring young players through and also for the fans to get behind him and his team, and points out that his family have season tickets there and they're already on his case. But he also said, I think the key element of this is it goes without saying we want to win games. There are different ways of doing it, different scenarios, different situations in games. You might have to play in certain ways, but you have to change that. I love working with the players. In the end, it comes down to results. But hopefully we can play a really exciting type of football, be positive and express ourselves and bring excitement. I want to be off my seat. And I think many Manchester United fans, there's been a lot of scoffing around Manchester United's DNA and what does it mean and is it even a thing? But I think that is what Manchester United fans want. I think they will tolerate results that are not as good as the expectations of the club if they feel as though they are being excited. And I don't think for long periods they felt that with Ruben Amorim, and I certainly don't think they felt that with Erik ten Hag.
So he's got a few days now to work with the players ahead of their game on Saturday lunchtime.
Yes, the players were given 2 days off, pre-planned after the Brighton game, so they're all in. So he admits it's been a kind of soft start because he spent today at Carrington getting to know the people who work there and having a chat with his coaches. But the players come in, and crucially, I think Amad Diallo and Brian Mbeumo should be back from the Africa Cup of Nations because Ivory Coast and Cameroon both got knocked out over the weekend, and that will offer a couple of pretty vital attacking options that Manchester United have not had over the last few weeks. So yeah, basically he's got 3 days to get a team together that can give Manchester City not just a game, but really, really push them and hopefully get a result, because they have basically thrown points away over the last few games. They drew at Burnley in their last Premier League game. They drew at Leeds and they drew at home against Wolves. Many people would argue that's 6 points gone. They're 7th at the moment. They cannot drop into the bottom half of the table and have a realistic chance of getting in Europe. And they have City and Arsenal to come.
Simon, thank you very much for joining us. And as Simon was saying, players are starting to come back from the Africa Cup of Nations because we're right at the end of the tournament. Tomorrow is the day for both semi-finals. Morocco, the hosts, are hoping to win the tournament for the first time since 1976. They play Nigeria. Senegal against Egypt is the other semi-final. BBC reporter John Bennett joins us live from Rabat. John, you're going to be commentating on Morocco's game for the World Service on Wednesday. So how is it? How are the local fans preparing for it?
Well, I've got to say, Kelly, Rabat as a city, Rabat's where I am, feels very laid back and relaxed compared to some other cities in Morocco. So I'd be lying if I said it was football fever here at the moment. It's not like the excitement levels I experienced in Ivory Coast at the last AFCON, but I think it will ramp up on game day. It's an incredible stadium where Morocco have been playing, 60,000 fans. It reminds me of the Tottenham Stadium. The sound is incredible. The noise is incredible. And I've noticed lots of people actually on the streets desperate for tickets. I bumped into a group who'd come over from France desperate for tickets, but it's a sellout, so they're going to struggle. So I'm sure it will ramp up the excitement on game day. And
they're both in really good form as well.
Yeah, they are. Nigeria have won all of their games so far. Morocco have won 4 of their games, 1 draw. Hasn't been plain sailing for Morocco. Massive pressure on them, huge expectation. They were booed after one of their games when they drew 1-1 with Mali. But their last game against Cameroon, 2-0 win, was a lot more convincing. So I think they've got the fans back on side. And Nigeria is surprising they're in great form because they didn't qualify for the World Cup. But you've got Nigeria fans saying this is the best they've played at this AFCON for 20 years, or almost since the great days of the 90s. And Alex Iwobi, the Fulham player, was talking about that today. He says that the difference is there's a real sense of brotherhood in their squad here. And he said that he's in his prime form, and so is Ademola Lookman, so is Victor Osimhen. So Nigeria really confident going into this game.
So that one is a huge game between the hosts and Nigeria. In the other semi-final is Sadio Mane against his former Liverpool teammate Mohamed Salah. Now, we've been here before because people who followed these players might remember the final from 4 years ago, and that's the one that ended in a penalty shootout. Senegal won that one. Is this Salah's revenge in what's probably his last AFCON?
Yeah, revenge for that, and also revenge for a World Cup playoff, which took place just a few months after that AFCON final, when Mohamed Salah missed a penalty in the shootout, finished level after 2 legs, went to a penalty shootout. Mohamed Salah missed his penalty. I think he put it over the bar. And then Sadio Mane again scored the winner. So it's almost like a trilogy. It's part 3 of this international football trilogy. Sadio Mane against Mohamed Salah. And I'm really looking forward to this game. Egypt have grown into the tournament. They've got better and better with every match. They were brilliant against Ivory Coast. But then you've got Senegal, who have a great squad. They've got 8 different scorers at this tournament. So many options. Iliman Ndiaye scored his first goal, the Everton player of this tournament, in the last game. He's struggled with injury. But there's just something, Kelly, about this Mohamed Salah story which makes me think that maybe the script is written for him to finally win his first AFCON here. He's been saying he's never enjoyed an international camp as much as this one. He's loving life. He's been out on the beach where they've been in their hotel. He's been away from all the fans, all the press. I think he's really enjoyed his time here at the AFCON.
John, thank you very much. 2 cracking semi-finals coming up tomorrow night in the Africa Cup of Nations. First round action continuing at the Masters Snooker. Jamie Broughton is watching on at Alexandra Palace. Jamie.
We're watching the 2-time Masters champion John Higgins take on the 2-time finalist Barry Hawkins. Hawkins won the opening frame with a 58 break, but after that he missed a series of chances, and Higgins knocked in breaks of 50, 71 and 53 to punish him by going 3-1 up at the mid-session interval. We're now back underway after the break, and Hawkins is looking favourite to take this frame. He's just made a break of 64. 6 is the target for victory, and the winner takes on the world champion Zhao Jing-Tong in the quarter-finals.
And they're about to get underway at St James's Park as well for the second half of Newcastle against Manchester City. First leg of their League Cup semi-final, and your commentary team at St James's Park, Pat Nevin and Ian Dennis.
Thank you, Lady Kelly. Neither side has made a change at half-time. I'll run through the 2 teams for you, just waiting for Chris Kavanagh to blow his whistle, and we are back underway for the second half of Newcastle United 0. Manchester City 0. Newcastle United in their black and white striped shirts and black shorts are attacking the Gallowgate end as they play from left to right as we look on this dry, rather chilly evening. at St James's Park, low down in the main stand against Manchester City in their sky blue shirts and white shorts, as Hall comes forward but is dispossessed by O'Reilly. So Pope is in goal for Newcastle. A back four of Miley, Chow, Botman and Lewis Hall, Guimaraes, Joelinton and Jacob Ramsey in the midfield. And then just before half-time, of course, Murphy was replaced by Harvey Barnes. Wissa and Gordon make up the Newcastle United 11. Foden is pushed over from behind by Guimaraes. That'll be a free kick, and a direct free kick to Manchester City, who have Trafford in goal. Nunes, Husinov, Elaine and Ake their defence. O'Reilly in the midfield, Bernardo Silva, Foden, Doku on the left, Semenyo on the right, and Haaland through the middle. Pat Nevin.
Yeah, interesting to see how Manchester City start this second half. They started the first half brilliantly, couldn't turn that into goals. They created a few chances, we'll give them that, but this second half they've got the ball in a dangerous area, maybe just slightly too far out for a shot.
It's certainly over 30 yards out, it's fractionally left of centre. Foden stands over the ball, Bernardo Silva is also there. We are yet to have a shot on target in this first Carabao Cup semi-final, but we have hope. If we go off the history books, where it's 31 years since there's been a goalless draw between these two here. Doku's cross, though, is headed out easily by that Newcastle United back line. Headed back, flicked on by Semenyo. Joelinton on the edge of his own penalty area forces the ball out to Guimaraes. Husinov again, pacey ball along the ground. Semenyo couldn't control it, but Manchester City will still benefit from a throw off the last touch coming off Lewis Hall. Pep Guardiola, head down, bowed in his tiny technical area, watching on. Eddie Howe's black and white army as they chant around St James's Park in front of this sellout crowd. Here is Doku. Barnes goes towards him. Ake provides the support midway through the Newcastle half. Foden to Elaine, along the ground now out towards Semenyo. Husinov, Newcastle United have dropped off once again. Here is O'Reilly. This is Ake once more. And now with Elaine, and Wissa goes towards him. And Elaine passes the ball all the way back towards Trafford. Pat.
Yeah, it's been difficult for Wissa, hasn't it? In that first half, a chance there, we have a chance there, but he's not been holding the ball up well, and there were a few moans downstairs ahead from Newcastle fans about his performance so far.
Here is O'Reilly in the midfield for Manchester City. Foden out now to Doku on this near left-hand side. Doku enters the penalty area, shuffling backwards is Miley towards Ake. Ake swings over the cross, strikes Gordon and almost went in. And Pope actually reacted very, very sharply, low down to his left to make the save. I guess that goes down as the first effort on target.
Yeah, as a player it's a nightmare because you're expecting the ball to be headed away and it just comes, you can't move your feet close enough, and he looks the other way, hoping his goalkeeper gets it, and Anthony Gordon a wee bit lucky to get away with that, and it wasn't his fault, it came at an unusual angle.
Chow, under pressure from Haaland, has to concede the throw. Had a difficult time against Leeds United last week, did Malik Chow. Manchester City will take the throw quickly on this left-hand side. Doku back towards Ake. Elaine passes the ball forward to O'Reilly. Every time I see O'Reilly, whether it's be left back or his more natural midfield position, he's a young man who really does catch the eye. So assured on the ball.
Absolutely, and again, controlling the midfield. Easiest thing to say, the hardest things to do. And he has controlled last parts of this game.
He's still only 20. He turns 21 in March. Of course, it was 303 days ago when Newcastle won the League Cup last March, and they're competing to be in the 66th League Cup final this March as they surge forward now with Gordon to do the holders. Gordon's cross on the run, Wissa with a header! What a save by Trafford! It was looping goalwards, but Trafford was watchful. Newcastle have kept the ball in play. Hall to Guimaraes, shot comes in, strikes the post. Newcastle United not once but twice test the Manchester City goal. What a save from Trafford though.
Well, we are in a brilliant position, right in a line with it, and it looked as if it had gone beyond him, but the athleticism to get there, and also the bravery. He knew he was going to hit the post, he knew he was going to get a hit there, he took the hit, made the save, and was up again. He wasn't able to save the second one, but the post saved him there. It's a very good start to this second half. Those chances we were talking about in the first half, well, they're beginning in the second half. We've had 3 already.
Yep, but it remains 0-0. But certainly there's a Newcastle United player down on just over the halfway line. It's Ramsey who's gone down holding his head. But you're right, but Trafford didn't have any worries as he was moving towards that left-hand post. His eyes were just focused on the ball. It was a looping header from Wissa. And he managed to claw it away and then worried about the post afterwards.
Yeah, and as a goalkeeper, the best goalkeepers, and a lot of them at this level are the best goalkeepers. They know where their goals are, they know where the post is, they know that hit's coming. But the bravery to do that, and look at his players going up to him, Bernardo Silva saying, well done. He understands what his goalkeeper did from there, saved him there. And the injury here happened right in front of us. It was tough to see, but I think it might have been Doku was going in for a challenge. His elbow was leading, but it was one of those ones where he wouldn't see the player coming in to tackle him, and the elbow went straight into his head at some pace. So that's no acting down there. That's as we say in Scotland, a dolian, which is a painful one.
Well, Ramsey is sitting up now at least. It's a shame from a Newcastle point of view as Bruno Guimaraes tries to keep the players focused. He makes a point of speaking to that back line, because once you've tested the keeper, you've then hit the post, you're then looking to try and keep the momentum, aren't you?
Yes, we'd love to. By the way, I've just seen 2 more versions of that save. I thought it was a brilliant save before. It's miles better than that. It's absolutely astonishing. He's so been. It is just creeping in under the crossbar. I was wondering, because it had not a great deal of pace, was it really that good a save? It is absolutely top draw.
That's Pat Nevin with us here on BBC Radio 5 Live. We're also available through the BBC Sounds app, where it remains Newcastle United, the holders 0, Manchester City 0. Manchester City are on the attack. Doku, left-hand side of the area, low ball in and turned in. Antoine Semenyo wheels away in delight. It's 2-2 for the signing from Bournemouth. He's hit the ground running as Manchester City strike first. The cross from the left, and Semenyo on hand to turn it in. Newcastle 0, Manchester City 1.
And it's an absolute carbon copy of all that Manchester City did at the first 15-20 minutes of the game. Get the ball out wide, just go to the byline, get beyond, and Harvey Barnes shows just slightly too much of the ball there. Gets down the line, doesn't think about it, doesn't look, just whips it across. There's a little touch at the front post. I wonder if it was Foden, I'm not sure.
I think it was Bernardo
Silva, yeah. And that changed it out of the angle that the goalkeeper could maybe go for it. And there was Semenyo doing what every wide player should do when the ball's coming from the other side. Trap the back post. If you do that, you'll get your tap-ins. Semenyo did that. 2 goals in 2 games for his new club.
Well, they activated that release clause, £65 million. He signed the deal till 2031. He scored on his debut against Exeter, and now he's followed it up with a goal against Newcastle United, and it is the travelling support high up in the gods away towards the Leazy's End who are singing and chanting to their delight, because early in the second half it is Newcastle 0, Manchester City 1. City have actually knocked out the holders on the last 2 occasions that they faced them, Birmingham in 2011 and Liverpool 11 years later in December 2022. And here the holders, Newcastle, are behind.
Do you really think about it? How must Pep Guardiola be thinking about his goalkeeper right now, who saved him moments before with the most incredible save? What a difference it made to the entire narrative of this game. And then Manchester City go up the other end, one simple attack, one little dummy by Doku, and that's them, 1-0 up. But do you know what? It doesn't feel like the goal scoring's finished in this game. Definitely doesn't feel that way.
Well, they didn't think it was going to finish goalless, and so it's proved. Newcastle United at the minute are having to try and contend with yet another Manchester City attack, buoyed by that goal. Here is O'Reilly. Antoine Semenyo's name is being sung by the travelling support, drowned out now by the incessant chanting from the home team. But Manchester City with Foden, looks for the ball out towards Doku. Doku controls it up against Miley. Again the threat from the left, cross blocked, edge of the area. Little nonchalant flick there by O'Reilly out towards Ake. And Doku in front of the substitutes with their luminous bibs catching the eyes on this near side, the left, just stopped to watch on as Foden actually gives the ball away to Harvey Barnes, and Miley scoops it away up towards Bruno Guimaraes, manages to get it up towards Barnes, helped out by Ramsey, but Manchester City working hard to stop Newcastle getting out of their own half.
The work rate's absolutely brilliant from Manchester City just now. They wanted to dominate the start of this second half. They've not dominated it, they found themselves ahead there, but it doesn't look to me as if Newcastle have been cowed by this at all. In fact, they look as if they've been lifted a little bit, as if to say, we need to go for this now. There's nothing to lose. We need a goal back, at least a goal back before the end of the game.
Here is Miley, forward from right back, midway through the Manchester City half, attacking the Gallowgate end, trailing by a goal to nil as we approach the hour mark on BBC Radio 5 Live. Deep in thought, with his hand on his chin, is Eddie Howe. Now Jason Tindall leans into his left ear as Botman at the back, but Manchester City have everybody back in their own half of those sky blue shirts, and now Botman left of the centre circle. Can't seem to find a way through at the moment.
You wonder the changes they would make. Oddly, Tonali might make a difference, just a little bit more physical presence in that midfield.
Here is Gordon. Gordon looks for Wissa. Wissa tries for the early shot. It'll rebound to Joe Linton. That was blocked. Newcastle keep it alive, edge of the area. Guimaraes shoots low. Straight at Trafford, down on one knee with a save, 1-0 City.
Good reaction from Newcastle. As I say, they don't look cowed by it. They're going to have a go at this. They've tried to get forward, they've got forward a couple of times. Oddly enough, you start thinking at this point in time, do you look to Voltamado, maybe holding the ball up? But in reality, Visser's had his first the best 5 minutes he's had in the game so far. Almost scored with a header, and he got a shot in there as well. His movements look much better in the second half.
Here is Gordon. Gordon decides to go on the outside of Nunes, but Nunes will see off that threat and passes the ball back to Trafford.
Oh,
that could have gone anywhere.
Was that Bernardo Silva? Yeah. Do you know why we both sound so surprised? Because it was one of the most extraordinary balls. They've always played out to him inside his own 18-yard line, and he whipped it, and it looked as if it was going to go in the top corner of his own net. It went out for a corner kick, and it is a classic. What on else was he thinking? It's so hard to figure it out. Anyway, he's given away a corner.
He went to hit it first time, and it just squirted off his boot. As we said, that could have gone absolutely anywhere. It's a corner kick to Newcastle, looking for an equaliser. Hall to take it on this near side, the right towards the far post, downward header. Well, it was Botman who was rising, and there was just a crowd of bodies at the far post. It's gone behind for another corner kick.
Do you remember the olden days when your goalkeepers used to get a lot of protection? Not these days, eh? I mean, because the corners are so much and they're getting crowded so much, I mean, he ends up on the ground there, Trafford, but there was a multitude of players around him.
In comes the corner kick. It's another in-swinger. Trafford manages to punch the ball away well under pressure, out towards Doku, but Hall gets himself in front of Doku and will shield the ball out of play for a Newcastle throw on this right-hand side.
He's exceptional, Lewis Hall, just now. I mean, honestly, that full-back position for England, he's not put a foot wrong tonight, and he looks one of the best players on the ball as well. He's a fabulous game.
Rodri is going to be coming on, Rico Lewis is going to be coming on, and we're also going to see Reinders coming on. It is going to be a triple change to be made by Manchester City. As Miley, high up the pitch, took that very, very well and around knee height out of the air on this near side. Can't get it down the line towards Barnes. Doku stops him. Doku now tries to come forward. Miley, though, recovers well. Down to the ground he goes. Tries to stop Bernardo Silva. who pops it up back towards Doku. It's a triple change in the offing for Manchester City, who lead by a goal to nil. The 8 times winners of this competition. Only Liverpool have won it more with 10. But here is Núñez, diagonal ball, Haaland inside the area with his back to goal, tees up Foden, shot blocked, almost comes back towards Haaland, and Newcastle with Chow turn it behind for a corner kick.
Very interesting watching Pep Guardiola considering making 3 changes when you've just gone 1 up. They're controlling and doing well, but he must see something. The fact that it's not massively negatively affected Newcastle, in fact it's lifted them a little bit, and that must be why he's thinking, nope, this is the time to make a change. He's not going to leave it any longer. Still, it's not bad players to bring on, is it?
Rodri's coming on for Nico O'Reilly, who's done well in the midfield for Manchester City tonight.
And of course he's on a yellow card, so you don't want to take a chance with that.
Reinders and Rico Lewis are the other 2 players who's going to be coming off. It's Phil Foden who's going to be coming off for Tijani Reinders. The Manchester derby, of course, is their next game, the early start at Old Trafford, 12:30. Michael Carrick, who has been announced to be in charge of Manchester United until the end of the season. What a first game that is for Michael Carrick. And then the other change is going to be Rico Lewis, who's going to be coming on, and Mateus Núñez is the player who is going off. Again, one of the other City players who's been booked in that first half. So the 2 players on yellow cards have now been removed from the equation.
That's so intelligent, isn't it? You know, thinking ahead. What's the thing that's most likely to really negatively affect your team? It's if someone gets sent off. And I have to say, just a few moments ago, Riley got himself into a difficult position, so probably a good thing. Even Núñez, he took a few chances.
Corner kick for Manchester City, and it's in swinger, and it's Antoine Semenyo again with a stab ball with a little flick goalwards. Antoine Semenyo at the double. Manchester City now have a vital cushion. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 2.
And you've got to say Newcastle have switched off there, haven't they? Making 3 changes at a corner kick, so there is confusion. Which man are you marking? Players that come on, players that come off, and just when all that confusion's going off, they've switched off. Semenyo has just simply walked in there. It's a good ball in, hard one to defend. He just walked off the goalkeeper there. His technique's great. With the outside of his foot, he's just lobbed it behind it. It's almost a back heel, isn't it?
It is.
It's a fabulous technical piece of play. You know, using his imagination. 2-0, and well, now suddenly it is a huge one for Newcastle to get back.
Because it's quite an awkward height for him as well, isn't it? What was he saying, knee height? When
yeah, I mean, it's difficult to see from this angle, but whether he actually got a foot on it or whether it was his thigh or the outside of his knee, but he's running away from goal. It's at an odd angle. He has to take it on the volley, but he does it with such aplomb, and it's so obvious and so deliberate. They're going to check it, obviously. They always do check it to see if he's come, because he was running off the goalkeeper. I certainly couldn't see any offside there, but
they are checking for a possible offside. Just wonder whether that would be Haaland, who's maybe interfering with Pope.
By the way,
up until this point, VAR wasn't in operation in the competition.
By the way, it's come off his backside, hasn't it? It's his hip, something like that, around about that. And if Haaland is interfering with the goalkeeper and doesn't allow the goalkeeper to make a movement, then this might be disallowed.
So Stuart Atwell at Stockley Park is having a good look at it. They've got the freeze frame.
It's an odd angle, because that's not the angle going to tell you if Haaland's interfering. We're seeing an angle from the high 6-yard line angle from the side. You would rather see it from behind the goal, and no doubt they're checking if indeed he is offside.
But as well as Pope, there's Chow in there as well.
And it may be Chow's heel that's actually the furthest back.
This
tough one to see.
This will take a little bit of working out for Stuart Atwell.
Well, if that's the only camera angle, and by the way, there doesn't seem to be a lot more. It looks to me like that's Chow's back of his right heel is the furthest back. But look at, there's an elbow. That's an elbow, and that wouldn't count.
No, it's got to be a point of the body, isn't it, where you can score from. So you discount the elbow at that stage. The bright orange boots of Chow seem to suggest, mind you, I was thinking the other week, the goal for
the 5 centimetre rule
for Wirtz was offside against Fulham, and that was deemed onside. So who knows? Sometimes the eyes can deceive you.
Yeah, well, how can they make a decision that, because they've not got a clear angle, and they clearly haven't got a good angle to see if there is a 5 centimetre leeway there.
So are you of the opinion then that the goal should stand on that basis?
Can I honestly say the most awful thing in the world to say for someone who's in this job? I haven't got a clue. And that's just the truth, because the way the rules are drawn up just now and the way they draw across it, it's almost impossible to tell. And it's one of those ones where you would almost want to leave it to the referee to make a value judgment on it himself.
Well, now they've shown the angle from behind the goal,
which means they must think it could.
I mean, we're talking possibly millimetres here, aren't we? But the longer it goes on, I always say this, Tonali's going to be coming on incidentally for Newcastle.
And Voltemada.
There's got to be a stronger chance that it's ruled out. But we wait.
I have to tell you, VAR doesn't know yet. It's taken a long time. But you know what? It's taken a long time because it's a very, you actually can't see it. You can't that clearly see it.
The players...
And they're putting the line on now.
Hold on. We've got the in-house stadium announcements as well. Well, here's one for you.
He's going to check it.
Yeah, but normally for offside...
Yeah. That's just what I said beforehand. I think you give it to the referee to make a value judgment because it's not clear. It's not open. The cameras can't tell you, and the VAR can't tell you. And at this point in time, I suspect the referee, if he can't tell either, might have to go with his original decision. But hey, it's a guess.
But you wouldn't think that offside is a subjective decision, would you?
It is when you've not got a good enough angle. Or maybe saying, do you think the keeper would have got to, with the fact that Haaland's there,
right,
and the keeper actually is moving away from the ball, so even if Haaland was having no effect in that there, if I'm honest with you. But then again, is it the keeper or the defender? Here we go, we're going to find out.
Stuart Atwell has instructed Chris Kavanagh to go to the screen. He's looked at it, and we now wait for his decision.
After review, Manchester City, number 9, is in an offside position.
Haaland was, after all of that, in an offside position, and that must have been a good 4-5 minute delay.
Do you know what? I'd rather they got it right, than do it quickly. But I still don't know if they got it right. And I have to tell you, you've said that's offside. I would say that was probably. I couldn't tell you for sure, and I don't think the referee can either. But it gives Newcastle another chance, and they're going to make their substitutions now. And this is big. Massive one.
Voltemada is coming on for Johan Wissa. It's a triple change. We're also going to see Elanga, and we're going to see Tonali. Jacob Ramsey is the player who comes off for Sandro Tonali, a player who Pat Nevin has felt that Newcastle have missed in the midfield. And Anthony Elanga comes on for Anthony Gordon. Midway through the second half, although that's a little bit misleading, bearing in mind it was such a delay, but it has certainly fired up the crowd, because at 2-0, you do feel as if the holders were heading out. It would have been such a tall order to overcome with a second leg still at the Etihad, given their dreadful record. However, renewed hope now inside St James's Park. Offside though, as the ball goes long. Oh, Joel Linton has squared up to Bernardo Silva. Now he has got to be careful because he was on a yellow card in the first half.
Well, you notice he stood beside him and then did nothing. So Joel Linton's not get too uptight about that, but he needs to calm down just now. He's still shouting away. He's not shouting at the referee, so there's no great danger there. I actually do think Bernardo Silva, sensibly, is just laughing at him, saying, you can get yourself into more trouble if you like. So many turning points in this second half already, hasn't it? Brilliant save for Trafford. That leads to Man City going up. Oh, that terrible back cross.
Husinov absolutely clubbed it back towards Trafford, who's volleyed the ball straight out of play for a throw. Voltemada swings over the cross. Elanga for Guimaraes. Falls to Tonali! Just wide. What an impact that would have been. And listen to the Geordie roar.
Well, as I say, this game hasn't felt like it's finished at any point. And just the lift that the Newcastle fans have got and the players seem to have got. And your first comment after those substitutions is Newcastle have played it long. I suspect you will say that once or twice more the next wee while, because they want to go forward quickly. They're getting to Tonali to get up forward to help Voltamada. Joe Linton's getting up there as much as possible. They're going to throw everything at this now for the last 20 minutes or so.
Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1. 5 Live, also available on the BBC Sounds app here at St James's Park. Here is Haaland, he's got Reinders to his right. Reinders with a shot blocked, it'll go out of play for a City throw over on that far side. Don't forget tomorrow night for a 6th successive day of live football coverage on 5 Live. Chelsea-Arsenal in the first leg of the second semi-final. The final itself will take place at Wembley on the 22nd of March. As Lewis, able to turn, finds that area of space out towards Semenyo, delivers the low cross, turned away by Botman, who falls to the floor. Hall holds off Semenyo, but then shows the ball back towards Semenyo, who wins it back for Manchester City. Here is Bernardo Silva, 19 minutes. We still could have a stirring finish here on Tyneside. Wouldn't have necessarily been the case had Manchester City gone into a 2-goal lead. Here is Doku, gets the ball back from Ake on this near side, the left. Out to the byline, up it goes, and Joe Linton volleys the ball away, only as far as the sky blue shirt. That was a push by Harvey Barnes into the back of Rico Lewis, gives away a free kick, Pat Nevin.
Very clever from Rico Lewis there. The ball's bouncing high, he's not going to be able to control it, so he just throws on the ankles, stops dead, and Harvey Barnes runs straight into him and knocks him over. And I'll tell you what, the referee was very disappointed with Trafford there, who didn't bother going for the ball. He's wasted a bit of time. He's slowed the game down a little bit, which is exactly what Manchester City would like just now, because it got a bit chaotic there, didn't it? And that's anathema to Pep Guardiola. He doesn't like chaos, does he? He likes order and control.
Yeah, there was, I think many people around us felt at times that they were looking to try and slow the game down at various stages in the first half. I'm sure he would have taken a 0-0. He's better than that. He's leading by a goal to 0 here. Manchester City, as Joe Linton tries to break up the move. Bernardo Silva catching Guimarães. That was late. That'll be a yellow card. Bernardo Silva is booked. The Manchester City captain, with 17 minutes remaining, is the third City player to go into the book of Chris Kavanagh this evening.
I think he's got every one of the bookings right as well. Bernardo Silva's actually been annoying the referee a wee bit, nipping a little bit here and there. And if you do that and you have one of those tackles, it's just a little bit high, the referee's not going to consider it. So does it right, but it did slow down the play when Newcastle were on a dangerous looking break there. So Bernardo Silva will take that.
Pope waits to take the free kick. Right-footed. Attacking the Gallagate end, drops on the edge of the area, helped on by Chow. Voltamada will head the ball back towards Elanga. Elanga plays the ball into the area, headed away by Ake, back out towards Elanga. Handball by Haaland, free kick to Newcastle United. Deep inside the City half, just in from the right touchline.
What a difference it's made. You know, just getting Voltamada on. And people do say he's not the very best in the air, but he does cause chaos, doesn't he? You put the ball in there, he'll go and attack it, and people will get beyond him, and balls will bounce off him now and again as well. And it has lifted the team. They know they've got a focal point to aim at now.
Newcastle 0, Manchester City 1. 16 minutes of normal time remain, but there was a lengthy VAR check that ruled out the second City goal that was ultimately disallowed. So you can still think, I think, at least 20 more minutes of playing time here at St James's Park. And add on the substitutions to that too. Hall with a free kick, delivered deep towards the far post. Haaland will head it away. There is Semenyo. Semenyo will clear the ball long. We're on air, incidentally, till 10:30 tonight before Tony Livesey takes over on 5 Live, so we'll try and bring you as much live reaction as we can from St James's Park. If we're unable to do so, then don't forget the 5 Live Football Daily Pod will be available from your usual sources to hear the thoughts of Eddie Howe and Pep Guardiola if we're unable to deliver it from the tunnel tonight. Joe Linton running back into his own half, challenged by Reinders, dropped to his knee, quickly back to his feet, now looks for a ball over the top towards Ilanga. Ilanga's lovely first time control, takes it on the inside. And he just slowed down a fraction, but he finds Barnes on the edge of the area. Barnes towards Ilanga, the link-up play intercepted by Reinders. Out of play, it will go for a Newcastle throw. They trail by a goal to nil.
It's such a buzz when Barnes gets the ball in that area, because we all know how good he is at cutting in from the left, or indeed the right, getting shots on targets, and as we say, he's on good goal-scoring form just now.
Ball over the top, flag stays down. Ilanga couldn't control it anyway. He certainly is. He's scored 4 goals in his last 2 games against Leeds and Bournemouth as Harvey Barnes, as he's 1 away from going into double figures for the season. Ryan Cherki is going to be coming on for Manchester City, as Doku has gone down holding his right knee.
A brilliant piece of skill up in the left wing there by Doku. Takes it by 3 players, and Guimaraes says, no, you're not getting by me, I'll take the yellow card for that, which I think he's got.
He scored a fine goal against Brentford in the previous round. Who was shown the yellow card incident? Did he say that?
Bruno Guimaraes.
Guimaraes, yeah, the Newcastle captain. So both captains have been booked. Doku is the player who's come off. So Ryan Cherki comes on to replace him. He's actually been involved in 3 goals in his 2 League Cup appearances so far. Scored 2 of them, got the one assist.
We were talking beforehand about all the injuries, weakened sides. You just bring on Cherki, Rodri and Reinders.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's not bad, is it?
No.
It's all right.
For a Manchester City side that is second in the Premier League, 11 points clear of Newcastle United, but looking to try and hunt down Arsenal at the top of the table. The Manchester derby to come at the weekend. We'll have reports of that into 5 Live Sport with Mark Chapman. A Saturday 3 o'clock commentary in the usual goal service is Spurs against West Ham United. Chelsea Brentford, another London derby, will be on Sports Extra. Then the leaders Nottingham Forest Arsenal is our commentary at 5:30. You'll hear from Arsenal tomorrow at Chelsea in the second semi. This is the first semi, and Manchester City are leading by a goal to nil with just over 12 minutes remaining of normal time. Time is in short supply for Newcastle.
It is. And by the way, all the players are getting moved off there. Doku's gone off. It's worth underlining. He's been fabulous today.
Haaland just behind him will fall to Bernardo Silva, who takes it on. The captain has a shot blocked. Here is Cherki still inside the penalty area. Just keeps it close to his feet. Back towards Bernardo Silva. Sends over the cross. Nobody is there. Newcastle United are looking at their first defeat since Sheffield Wednesday at home in the League Cup competition since 2015. Where they'd previously scored 22 goals and only conceded 4 during that time.
But you have to remember, they've been pretty good at scoring late goals of late at this stadium. Very good indeed at scoring extremely late goals, so they won't give up, and they know that they've been able to create a few chances against Manchester City in this second half, and I think they believe they can create more. And they got a lift with the get out of jail free card of the second goal being cancelled out there.
Yes, Voltemade stoops to head on. Elaine clatters the ball away. Eddie Howe taking charge of his 750th game in his managerial career tonight. His first was actually in the North East, a 2-1 loss at Darlington on the 3rd of January 2009. It's a game so far tonight that is going away from him, but he's used to that against Manchester City. He's only won 2 of his 21 matches against them in that 17-year managerial career of his. As Pope downfield. Voltemade is the target. It was Elaine who was having to deal with the tall German. They play the ball forward. Cherki, who was sauntering until he saw Pep Guardiola wagging his finger and telling him to go to Semenyo, who's now switched to the left in the absence of Doku.
Yeah, I don't think Semenyo cares if he's right or left, or even he could play perfectly well as a number 10 as well. He's well capable of that. He's actually been quite quiet for long periods of the game, but when he's been involved, it's been absolutely... It's been dynamic, and also you feel very, very disappointed he's not got 2 goals, just the 1.
Manchester City looking to try and control these closing stages as they lead by a goal to nil. Newcastle are doing a lot of the chasing. Haaland with a layoff inside his own half towards Rodri. Reinders managed to evade the charging of Bruno Guimaraes out towards Cherki on the right hand side. Here is Lewis, can't thread the ball through, but Newcastle can't keep hold of the ball. And Manchester City now with Rodri, almost comes to a standstill, gets it back from Cherki. 10 minutes remaining then here at St James's Park. Cries of come on City as Lewis is able to turn. There's a man over to his right, it's Cherki inside the area. Cherki goes through the legs of Nick Pope at his near post and away from goal. Out it goes for a City throw. City the stronger of the two teams at the moment, Pat.
Yeah, by some distance. Again, Rodri coming on, the master of controlling the games, and he's just getting his full fitness back, and you can see that there's quite a bit to come. But when he's on the ball, he looks so unflustered, he knows the right balls to play, and oddly, when he gets the ball, him and Bernardo Silva, honestly, they look as if they're telepathic. They are brilliant together.
Pope, actually looking at it again, was rather fortunate. It just struck the instep of his left boot, and it was like the heel area that diverted away from goal. Had it not had that touch, it might well have gone through his legs and squirmed into the net.
Well, the goalkeeper's union will tell you it doesn't matter how you save it, but I think you're being kind. I think he was jammy as anything. He had no idea what was going on there, he just got lucky.
Manchester City still have a slender lead. That's Pat Nevin who's with us here through till 10:30 tonight on BBC Radio 5 Live. Newcastle United on the balance of play at the moment don't look like scoring. Here is Tonali. They hit the post, and a wonderful save from Trafford, but they need to build some sort of momentum, because their last opportunity came some 12 minutes ago when Tonali went very close with a whistling effort as Lewis just pushes away at Hall. Chris Kavanagh actually gives the decision in favour of Manchester City, much to Hall's dismay.
He's not stopped battling, has he? A little bit of pushing and shoving there. Again, one or two referees might have looked dimly at that, but he's allowing the play to go on, understanding the cup feverish atmosphere that there is around here, and it still is a feverish atmosphere.
Manchester City looking to take their unbeaten run to 13 games. It is their longest unbeaten run since the start of last season, when they opened up with 14 games, as we've got a yellow card there now to Rodri.
Was it? Was it not for the taking the time over? Maybe Lewis. I'm just guessing though.
Lewis.
Yeah, Lewis for taking his time with the throw, I think.
I wasn't too sure if maybe Rodri had said something out of turn, but it was for time wasting for Rico Lewis. So that is a fourth yellow card for Manchester City. Haaland's ball might fall towards Elanga. Elaine read the danger well. He was alert to it, and back it goes towards Trafford. I don't think he's made many mistakes, has he, the young man? He's only 20 years of age, the son of the former England cricketer Mark Elaine. He used to play for Gloucestershire. Only his third appearance for the club. Made 17 appearances for Watford on loan in the Championship. Newcastle just can't get a foothold in the closing stages of this contest.
Well, talking about Elaine, I have to say he looks at back in a minute.
Ball over the top, Barnes to Voltemada. Voltemada inside the area, couldn't get the ball under control, and Elaine was able to get the ball to safety for Manchester City. Tonali picks it up, Miley, back it goes then to Chow in the centre circle. Pat.
Well, we're talking about Elaine there. He's the one who got the ball away. Actually, he looks as if he's played in that team for about 5 years. He's been brilliant and controlled and comfortable on the ball and reading the play well. He's been super.
Now Cherki on the counter-attack, and he runs into space, and he runs on that right-hand side. He enters the penalty area. Had he looked up and pulled the ball back in towards the D, he'd have found Semenyo totally unmarked. He went for goal, it was blocked. Here is Hall for Newcastle. Diagonal ball, floated out towards Elanga. His header, though, is directed straight towards Elaine. Off the chest it bounces at Bernardo Silva, and Ake will get there first to lift it. Miley heads it forward, right-hand side. Elanga, ball intercepted. Far too casual. Manchester City are wanting to make another change in these closing stages. Here is Haaland. Looks towards Reinders. The goalkeeper Pope comes off his line and dives at the feet to gather in safely.
He did the right thing there, Haaland. I mean, every player, you want to try and play that through ball to Reinders. But it's Erling Haaland. You just think, go on, have a shot. You're only about 16 yards out. If anyone's capable of scoring, it was him.
They go long, and Elaine with a back header towards Trafford. Kieran Trippier is going to be coming on. This will be the third and final opportunity of a substitution for Newcastle, with Trippier getting his final instructions. Meanwhile, Reinders wriggles free and then can't find Haaland, that leaves Guardiola hopping mad.
Yeah, he looks a little bit tired there, doesn't he, Erling Haaland? To be fair, he has worked selflessly. He's run the line, he's tried to hold the ball up, he's done a lot of work. He's not had a great impact in the game so far, Erling Haaland, other than being offside for that goal that wasn't given. But I have to say, he has worked his socks off.
Ball scoop forward and scoop long. Voltemade tries to get there. Husinov, though, will beat him to it. And he passes the ball forward. There is Rodri. Rodri keeps the ball in play, but then gives it away straight to Joel Linton. Guimaraes with his back to goal. Newcastle attacking the Gallagher, and the referee gets in the way there. But let's play continue. Tonali out to Joel Linton. Hall not used on the overlap. In comes the cross. Husinov heads it away inside the area. Drops on the edge of the box. Falls towards Bernardo Silva. Strikes the body of Tonali. They appeal for handball against Bernardo Silva, who now with the outside of the left boot carves the ball up towards Cherki. He looks for the run of Haaland through the middle, and the goalkeeper Pope comes quickly off his goal line.
Brilliant goalkeeping, absolutely fantastic, because Haaland got through there using that pace that we all know he's got, flew through there, and if keeper didn't come out there, that was an absolute stick on to be the second goal, but he did and saved it.
So Kieran Trippier is going to be coming on, and it's going to be Bruno Guimaraes.
That's exactly the move I'd have made. Exactly the move. I was going to suggest it beforehand. The reason being, I think you get Miley into the centre of midfield. He's got plenty of energy left. Guimaraes has had a limited impact in this game, and as tired as the game has gone on. Get Miley into the midfield where he's more comfortable and he's good at going forward, and Trippier right back. Good thinking, I like it.
And that's the insight from Pat Nevin. And the City change is Aït-Nouri, who I think when I listened to Pep Guardiola, it talks about he'd missed a connection on his way back from the African Cup of Nations. He's actually missed 7 games as he was away with Algeria. He's going to come on, and Ake is the player who's going to come off. So Aït-Nouri, the former Wolves defender, will just automatically slot in at left back for Manchester City. And Ake gets not only a hug from Pep Guardiola, but also a hearty hug too from Kolo Touré. 2.5 minutes of normal time remain. BBC Radio 5 live, Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1. It'll put City, despite that slender lead, still as the strong favourites to reach the final, given their record against Newcastle United. Not just that as well, but ahead of the semi-final in 3 weeks, City have won 14 of their last 15 League Cup ties at home. That's only one home defeat in something like 11 years in this competition. But Newcastle United still might have time for an equaliser. However, Manchester City are on the ball with Bernardo Silva to Aït-Nouri, to Rodri, and then back towards Elaine. Elaine's forward ball cut out by Elanga, but he blocked the ball back up towards Voltemade, and a last touch off Elanga will go out of play for a Manchester City throw.
It's a real shame for Elanga. He's come on, and every ball that's come to him has been really difficult to control, and he hasn't been able to do it yet. What he wants is one chance to run at his full-back. He's got a different full-back to run it now. Aït-Nouri's come on in that position, but Elanga just wants one opportunity in that final third. He's not had one yet.
Manchester City will go into the heated atmosphere of a Manchester derby at Old Trafford on Saturday, and then they travel to the Arctic Circle next week against Bodo Glimt in the Champions League, a game you can hear on BBC Radio 5 Live. The conditions here tonight will feel positively balmy in comparison.
Yeah, well, it's not been too bad tonight. He said trying to be butch and failing.
Here is Elanga back with Chow. 60 seconds then of normal time remaining. Manchester City have managed these closing minutes extremely well. They've managed to protect Trafford. They've eliminated hardly any threat at all from Newcastle United due to the way that they've worked off the ball. Here is Trippier on this near side. His forward ball floated up towards Voltemade. Looks for the layoff to Miley. Miley is there, and then he tried to lay it off. It was fractionally behind Voltemade. Everything that Pat Nevin was saying almost came to fruition there for Newcastle.
I mean, you watch Miley so much. I mean, it tells you something about how highly he's regarded at this place. You take off Bruno Guimaraes and put him in the midfield because you want to add something going forward. And he's got such energy, the young lad there, and he got up there right beside Voltemade, and the ball just didn't quite break at him.
9 minutes of added time, which we're now into.
Pep Guardiola can't believe it, but it's right. There'll be so many substitutions. There was that gigantic gap between when we went to the referee and then went to VAR, then we went over to the side of the pitch. It took forever, so 9 minutes is probably right.
You mentioned Lewis Miley, though. His progress has certainly not gone unnoticed by the football writers in the North East, because in fact today Lewis Miley was named the FWA North East Young Player of the Year for 2025. Dan Ballard of Sunderland won the senior award for a prestigious event that will be held on March the 1st in Durham. So Lewis Miley will be on stage in a few weeks' time.
Who will be MC that then?
Not too sure, actually.
I'm just guessing.
An up-and-coming voice, I hear. Here is Bernardo Silva on the halfway line. We've got 8 minutes of added time remaining. Tonali puts pressure and gives a... Oh, now Bernardo Silva...
I think he's only going to give it to Tonali.
Yeah, but I thought he'd indicated to the referee about a yellow card. I mean, Trippier, incidentally, the other substitute, was booked moments before. Tonali's also got into the book for the foul as well. But you do have to be careful to try and put the referees...
I see what you mean. I think he's right. The referee's got that right with Tonali. That's a gridiron move. That's not a football move. Not even rugby. That he's tackled him and he's grabbed him and he's hauled him and he's turned him round and then he's pushed him over as he walks away. So I think we can safely say that's worthy of a yellow.
7 minutes remain of stoppage time. Newcastle 0, Manchester City 1. 5 Live Sport on air until 10:30. Tony Livesey standing by. Tonali heads it forward. Voltemada beaten to the air by Elaine, just stabs it. Elaine now finds Cherki, runs forward. Cherki to the edge of the area. Cherki shoots low, straight at the goalkeeper. Again, Semenyo saying, why not me? With his arms aloft. Out left, Trippier passes the ball now towards Elanga. Aït-Nouri catches Elanga, gives away a free kick. Ball kicked away then by Elaine.
You have to be careful against Aït-Nouri. He's maybe a little bit lucky as well there. He came through the back of Elanga, but Elanga got up quickly. He couldn't roll about. There's not enough time to do that, so he's got up, got on with the game. And who's going to get booked now?
It's one of the coaching staff. Pep Guardiola thought it was me. He's saying it's nothing to do, and Chris Kavanagh saying no, not me. But one of the other coaches had strayed out of the technical area. The fourth official, who is Matthew Donoghue, told him just to get back in his box, literally, to which he started spouting off, and then he alerted Chris Kavanagh, and so the coaching staff has been, or the member of the coaching staff has been shown a yellow card. Trippier to take the free kick after all of that. 6 minutes remain. It drops on the edge of the area. Good header away by Elaine again. He's had a fine game at the heart of the City defence. Barnes with the cross, left-hand side. Voltemada tries to get on the end of it and couldn't. He just dived forward inside the 6-yard area, and that must have just been a fraction away from his head, and out it goes for a goal kick.
Well,
it was agonising for Newcastle.
You know, he didn't do much wrong there. He needed to be 6'9" and he's only 6'6". He just couldn't quite get it there. Brilliant ball in there. I think it was the Barnes that put it in, and a real chance there had he just maybe made his move a little bit quicker, but unlucky there. And by the way they've played, you would not grudge Newcastle getting an equaliser here.
No.
With the effort they've put in and, you know, the fearlessness that they've shown.
Trippier's forward ball, helped on by Elanga to Voltemada. Tries to head it back towards Elanga, but that was cut out by Aït-Nouri. Lewis now hammers the ball downfield. Trippier gives it to Miley. Miley passes the ball to Botman. We're in the 95th minute. There was a minimum of 9 to be played here at St James's Park. Of Newcastle 0, Manchester City 1. Newcastle are attacking with Barnes. Hall, left corner of the area, tries to get away from 2 players, ultimately loses the ball, but Tonali stops the run of Rodri, and Newcastle have it back. Here is the ball with Barnes, infield to Joel Linton. Trippier is forward, former City player, headed away by Aït-Nouri. Trippier then passes the ball back, and now it is with Tonali. Tonali along the ground. Elanga gives it back towards Tonali. Ball played back out then towards Barnes, unmarked, controls it, settles at the second time. Hall on the overlap towards the byline with the cross, headed up rather than away and onto the roof of the net behind for a corner kick. Newcastle still fighting.
Where sometimes you see full-backs and wingers who work together and understand each other quite well, and there are others who are brilliant together. Barnes is absolutely phenomenal with Lewis Hall, got to the byline so easily there, brilliant understanding, great play. Again, unlucky Newcastle. They're finishing this game very well.
So in front of the Gallagate end on that far side to the left, playing from left to right, Newcastle trailing by a goal to nil, have a corner kick. Tonali to take it. It's an in-swinger. That was headed out by Rodri inside an extremely crowded 6-yard area. Hall with a turn, shot charged down, balloons up in the air, headed on by Joel Linton. Voltemada was there, but then diving was with Trafford with spring-like heels. And all of a sudden he's thrown it out now with Semenyo, and Semenyo's glided forward into the area, looks towards Haaland, cut out by Hall. Semenyo will let the ball go out of play for a corner. Wow, that was swift.
Well, do you know what? Watching Semenyo run like that, he doesn't seem to be trying. No. He's one of these people who runs at an incredible pace. But as you said, your description was gliding. Yes, he's gliding, but he's gliding at one extraordinary pace there. Just watching there, I think Lewis Hall went down there with a little bit of cramp. That's absolutely understandable. He's had another fine game, as I've mentioned a few times there. But right now, they just want to survive this corner kick, because if it went 2-0, as you say, it's a long old way back, even though I've got 90 minutes after this one.
The way he covered the ground was like a hovercraft.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, again, it just seemed effortless, like a 100-metre runner. It's not about the effort, it's about the technique of running.
Talking of the effort, Erling Haaland looks dead on his feet. He's absolutely shattered after that run that he just couldn't get on the end of. Here is Rodri. Manchester City lead by a goal to nil. 2 minutes of stoppage time, or the minimum of 9 remain. Husanov hits it. Aït-Nouri heads the ball in field. Semenyo brings it under control, passes the ball back, and then Bernardo Silva has sliced that out of play for a throw. That change of the rules was something that Eddie Howe was bemoaning yesterday, and I guess it's typical in many ways that it's Semenyo whose goal is the difference, as Pope has absolutely pulled that, and it's gone out of play for a Manchester City throw. And with it, with less than 90 seconds remaining, a lot of the Newcastle supporters are drifting towards the exits here at St James's Park.
And you think about it, a lot of them are going, but there's still tens and tens of thousands that are staying here. And I'm always interested to see what the reaction is of the team that's lost. I think the fans should be applauding their team with the effort they put in.
Nice flick inside by Cherki to Aït-Nouri. Aït-Nouri inside the area, back towards Cherki, and he finishes it off. Cherki first time, left-footed. The Manchester City bench celebrate. They know now that they've got 1 foot in the final. They lead the holders, Newcastle United, by 2 goals to nil.
Well, they had to go and push forward a little bit, Newcastle. They put everything into it. But their technique and attacking when they get to those bylines is brilliant from Manchester City. And they have done it, particularly from that left-hand side, for many, many times during this evening. And this time they get there, and it's no more than a tap into Cherki there. It feels quite harsh on Newcastle United, but that's the brilliance of Manchester City. When they get opportunities, they've got players that can finish it off and play that final ball. Lovely play down the left-hand side. I think it might be Bernardo Silva who scooped the ball through. But the pass back from the byline was absolutely brilliant. In fact, it was Semenyo, wasn't it? Put the ball through there, get to the byline, cut back, and Cherki, he's never going to miss that. No. It's just his head's up and calm as anything. Well, you mentioned there weren't that many leaving. There's plenty leaving now.
But you mentioned the quality to come off the bench, and there you had Aït-Nouri and Cherki, 2 of those substitutes, as well as Rodri and Reinders who've come off. And that second goal now puts Manchester City in an extremely strong position. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 2. And high up in the gods, they'll have climbed 14 flights of stairs to get to that lofty position, but they still have enough air in their lungs to sing and chant to their heart's content, as there is the 9 minutes of added time that have ticked over, and Newcastle United have got the proverbial mountain to climb. The holders have been beaten in this competition for the first time at home since 2015. Newcastle 0, Manchester City 2. Goals in the second half from Semenyo and then Cherki deep in injury time. Pat Nevin.
I'll say Manchester City 1-2-0, and if you've not watched or listened to this game, you'll think, oh, just another easy win for Manchester City. Nothing like it. They worked so hard for that tonight. They had some brilliant performances as well, Manchester City, but the work rate was needed tonight because Newcastle gave them a massive test, and both of these sets of players, you feel as if they'll almost crawl off this ground tonight. And you talk about this being the third competition, they're not taking it anything less than 100% seriously, and that's a joy to see that. And it was a really enjoyable game, and there's a wee bit of sadness that it is 2-0 because it really almost does put the second leg out of reach of Newcastle United, with one possible caveat, you know. Will Manchester City think 2-0 up, we might put a much weakened side out? Well, I wouldn't dare do it if I was Pep Guardiola, because this Newcastle United side have got fight.
The game swung in a 3-minute period. Trafford's looping header, fantastic save from Wissa. Guimaraes hit the post, and then within 3 minutes, Semenyo scored again to give them the lead. He then had a goal disallowed, but then Cherki with a crucial second in the 98th minute. It's finished at St James's Park. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 2.
Ian Dennis and Pat Nevin at St James's Park for us. We're going to be here right through until 10:30, reflecting on that victory for Manchester City. And then, look, City did enough to win it. They did enough to win it by 2-0, Pat. But it wasn't that too much between the sides, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, tactically, there was nothing in it. There really wasn't anything in it. You're looking around tonight and say, well, who are the best players in the pitch? Well, that was a tough call, because there were a lot of phenomenal, I mean, I'll give a lot of points for effort anyway, and the effort was absolutely everywhere tonight. Really brilliant. City playing at a superb tempo. Got to mention the likes of Alain, who was really brilliant. A young kid comes in. I hadn't seen too much of him. I expect to see an awful lot more of him now, because he cruised through that game in the centre-back position and didn't give Wissa that many opportunities, particularly in that first half. Kuzanov, we hardly mentioned him tonight. That's a great thing to say about a centre-back, isn't it? You hardly mentioned him, purely because he got himself in the right positions most of the time and read all the play. And you can go through a lot of the players, Bernardo Silva. I mean, he would annoy a lot of opposition people, but what a great guy to have in your team because of the control he has in the play. It's all the way through their team, but I could say exactly the same about so many players in that Newcastle United team. I thought Lewis Hall was stunningly good tonight. A brilliant performance from late back. Miley again had another very, very good game, and all the way through the team. Again, no problem with the effort, but just what you're suggesting there, Kelly, that real bit of quality in front of goal. Newcastle had 3 or 4 real good opportunities for Wissa, for Voltemada. They didn't put them away, but Manchester City will, because they always do.
And that is why Manchester City are taking that 2-goal advantage to the Etihad for the second leg of this League Cup semi-final as they bid for another Wembley appearance. Manchester City 2-0 winners at St James's Park. We'll be talking about that until 10:30. Dwight Gale will join us for that. But first, it's the BBC News with Giuliano Cassidy.